Hi, everyone, and welcome to this week's Crush It in Sales podcast. I am so excited you have decided to join me today. It is August. I am so happy. I really took the month of July to get clear. I had some vacations and I did some batching for the podcast, which I talked about last week. And I just feel like really, really good. I'm in an amazing place and I'm just kicking off August with a powerful message. And it's about extreme ownership. Extreme ownership. I could probably write several books on this topic because I have so many stories and examples. And when I share these stories today, these are my stories. And they are meant to just shed some light and perspective on some things I see out there in regards to extreme ownership. It's not meant to throw shade on anyone. And so if you take it that way and it triggers you, then that's where I always recommend to do the deep work, right? Triggers are meant to help you move forward in your life and evolve and transform. So again, this is not meant to throw shade. It's just meant to share some perspective, some stories. And if you get something from this podcast and it resonates with you, or you have like a little aha moment of maybe something you could be taking a little bit more ownership with, then this podcast has served its purpose, right? So here we go. I went on TikTok maybe like a few days ago or over the weekend. I don't even remember because I don't pay that much attention, but I went on TikTok because someone I know and like is building her business on TikTok. And I was like, oh, I wonder, if she has any videos up and, can I, support her and check them out. I think she's doing a great job. So it was just purely from that aspect. And when I was on TikTok, a video came into my feed from a really skinny girl. I'm going to say this. She is skinny. And it's a video on Victoria's Secret and doing a flash mob. And you may have seen this video. And if you haven't, I'm sure you might be now looking through your phone to try to find the video. So I'm obviously supporting her video by talking about it, right? And it was fine. It didn't trigger me or anything. I was just kind of like, oh, she doesn't really know the full story of Victoria's Secret, whatever. I listened to half of her song and I moved on. Like, I didn't think much of it. Well, now what I see out there is a lot of people posting about this video on Facebook and on other things too. I've seen it many times, not just one person, but I have seen it many times. And I was like, where do we come from a place that a retailer is to blame for any body issues? How did we get here? How did we get here? And so it made me think about my personal experience being a merchant for Victoria's Secret. And if you know me, you know that is on my resume. Many of you probably don't know that. Many of you probably have no clue that I have an amazing background and just amazing. It blows my own mind sometimes how fortunate I've been in my career to work for such established retailers, and Victoria's Secret was one of them. If you hate them, that's on you. They were Les Wexner, like what he created with all of those brands, like you probably have no idea. Like he created Abercrombie and Fitch, Bath and Body Works. Lane Bryant was one of the first plus size retailers out there, people. And the world didn't support Lane Bryant like they supported Victoria's Secret. It wasn't for lack of effort or trying. He created a plus size brand. Like, people are so unaware of these things, and then they become keyboard warriors. And so my whole thought was just really took me down this memory lane of like, I was always someone who had body issues, always. I wrote about it in Life and Love Lessons. I've had body issues since I was a kid. Like most women, I'm nothing special. I would dare to say every single woman has some type of body issue, and men as well. And let's not just say it's women, okay? Men as well sometimes have body issues. And it stemmed from my childhood. And it really stemmed, the earliest memories I can remember is from my uncle and my aunt telling me I was chubby. That's where I remember things, is from that when I was a kid. So when I went to work for Victoria's Secret, which was in the late 90s, and I was in my 20s, I had moved to Columbus, Ohio for Victoria's Secret. They recruited me. And I previously was at Saks Fifth Avenue as a merchant in New York City. I lived in Manhattan on 36th and 9th. And I never, ever, ever had more body issues or anything related to body issues in relation to working for Victoria's Secret. And what people don't know is at that time, which was when Victoria's Secret was in its heyday, when the lines were out the door, at Christmas, the line to buy product was like insanely long. It was nuts. We had to work in the store sometimes as merchants to kind of really get a beat on our customers and what they wanted and help and set the floor. And the lines were crazy. Well, our CEO, her name was Grace Nichols. Guess what, people? She was plus size. She wasn't skinny. She was plus size. And the majority, not joking, the majority of leadership in the company were women. There were some planning managers that were men, Barry, Jonathan, I remember. Our head of HR, his name was either Brent or Brett. He was a male. But besides that, there were women. Our EVP, her name was Kay. Powerful, powerful woman. Just so amazing. Head of merchandising, Lori. Oh my God. I have chills thinking about her. She was just amazing to work under such powerful women. Women, not men. Now we get into this place of judgment. And why? Victoria's Secret, yes, it was actually created by another man. I forget his name. And then Les Wexner bought the company and created what he created. But the bones of the company, the merchants, I was one of, I think there were 5 or 6 of us, all women. The vice presidents, women. The leadership, women. The designers, women. Almost all women. So where do we get to this place that we're blaming men for body issues? If you have body issues, is it really from Victoria's Secret? Really? Think about that. Think about that. I never once thought about body issues when I was there. I was just busy working. I was busy trying to find product that the customers would love. And I have to tell you, what was super fun when I worked in the stores was the amount of queens, drag queens that would come in and buy things. That was so fun. Men would come in and they'd be like, hey, I just want to get something pretty for my wife. Will you help me? Where did we get to this place of not taking ownership of our own body issues, if you have them? Where do we get to this place that we're blaming a retailer? Really? Really? My body issues started way before Victoria's Secret. Nothing to do with Victoria's Secret. And when I decided to release weight in 2020, I decided. It wasn't because of anything else. It was just me. I said, I'm done. I'm going to release weight now. And I released over 40 pounds. Had nothing to do with anything else or any person. It's all me. I did the work. I cut eating the crap. I stopped drinking the wine. I took ownership of my behavior and what I was putting in my mouth. I have so many work stories about ownership. Again, I could probably write several books. That's why I love being a business mentor, is because I get it. I get it. When I think about when I then went to another extremely large retailer, 2 jobs after Victoria's Secret, I remember when I went there, this was kind of funny. They were hiring this very, very, very large retailer that almost all of you have shopped at before, I'm sure of it. When I went there, they were in the process of recruiting people from the limited brands. Okay? So this very large retailer is Target. Again, I'm sure you shop there if you live in the United States. And they wanted people from the limited brands. Again, Les Wexner created many, many, many brands. Many brands. I could sit and probably figure it out and count, but not worth my time. And they were recruiting people because the limited brands were a leader in retail. They were changing the landscape of retail. They were change makers. And I was fortunate enough to be on a line planning, like think tank committee, I'd say, for Victoria's Secret when I was there. I'm an excellent planner. I'm really good with numbers and with spreadsheets, and I understand the process. And so I was one of a select group of people that was on the line planning committee, which changed the whole way we did business at Victoria's Secret. And Target wanted to copy that. So there was a buyer, a merchant at Victoria's Secret named Terry, and she was the shapewear buyer, and she got fired from Victoria's Secret. But I liked her. I thought she was really nice. And she went to Target, and then I was getting recruited for Target. And so I reached out to her, we reestablished a connection, and when I got my job at Target and went there, and I went into her office to say hello, and she was hired in at a very big position, considering that Target normally only hires, really only promotes, I should say, from within. So she was hired as an external at like a director position. And I remember going into her office, and on her desk was my work. I kid you not. My work. My line planning committee work from Victoria's Secret. She took it and brought it to Target for Target to copy. I go, oh my gosh, that's my handwriting. I'll never forget this. I'll never forget this. I looked at these pieces of paper on her desk. Oh my gosh, that's my handwriting. And she was like, oh, and like hid the papers. She didn't last at Target very long. My point here is you have no idea what has influenced what in this world. A famous scene from a movie that comes to mind that's along the same path that I'll share is, if you've ever seen the movie Devil Wears Prada, and if you've seen the movie, you might remember Anne Hathaway making a comment about a shade of blue called cerulean. And Meryl Streep sets her quite straight in going through the whole path and chain of how important that color is to the world and how it ends up creating jobs for people. It's the same premise. You have no idea what one thing leads to another. Think about it. It's pretty impactful. So yes, in the case of Victoria's Secret, which has been documented, this is not something I'm making up, been documented, they didn't move with the times. Okay? The times in the past 20 years has been that people have gotten bigger. You can call it whatever else you will. I'll just say bigger. And they didn't move with that. But what you don't know is, in the case of the fashion shows, the people in the buying office had nothing to do with the fashion shows. They didn't even care. We did not care. I think I was like one of the only people that would sneak down to the cafeteria because, yes, we were working so late. and I would sneak down to the cafeteria and try to catch a glimpse. The issues within the company were actually about work-life balance. That's why people would leave. It wasn't about body issues. It was work-life balance. So I would sneak down because I've always loved glitz and glam and sequins. But as a merchant, I didn't have anything to do with that fashion show. I didn't give them anything to put on those models. Nothing. And if you know anything about business and marketing, it was just marketing. And the bulk of the sales of the business came from one of the lines within the brand called Body by Victoria, which were basics. 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 Basic bras that were comfortable. Basic panties that were comfortable and you didn't have panty lines. That's where the bulk of the sales came from. Body by Victoria. It wasn't sexy little things that were in the fashion show. Heck, that didn't even exist. That was all fantasy. The fashion show team would rummage through boxes of samples that us merchants would buy on trips. I traveled all over the United States. I would come down to Miami and go shopping. I would go to New York. I had a Victoria's Secret, American Express, and I remember going to Bergdorf Goodman, and I could buy whatever I wanted that I thought would be inspirational for the design team and that our clients would love. So I would spend like hundreds of dollars, $1,000. They didn't even care. And I would buy samples. And then the design team would look at them, pick them apart. They'd go in a box. So we had a room full of boxes of like old samples, different things. And they would kind of pick through and maybe be like, oh, I'll take an element from here, piece of lace from here, whatever. And they kind of piece things together and they just did what they wanted to do. We didn't care. It didn't mean anything. So about a year ago, someone came out with a podcast on the Victoria's Secret fashion show and the marketing. And it was really disappointing because it was just so one-sided. They only had one marketing person, and actually it's someone I think I remember, and I'm pretty sure it is, and then one model. And they didn't even cover that. It's just marketing. And granted, there's always been rumors, yes, but I don't speak to rumors because I don't frickin' know. Didn't concern me. All that I cared about was doing my job. I took ownership for what I could control, which was just doing my job. Doing my job, and going home. So I ask you to just think about that before you make comments, before you rip on a retailer. Like, Victoria's Secret is not responsible for people's weight. You are responsible for your weight. If you are not happy, do something about it. You can change it. I can honestly say, I think I've only met one person in my life that I think has, maybe she would love to lose a little bit of weight, and I know she eats super healthy, so it's kind of a mystery. I don't know. I've never had a huge conversation with this person about it. But I would say for the most of us, it's just you ate too many fucking potato chips and chocolate chip cookies. But if you did, and you want to eat them, then eat them and have fun and enjoy it, which is a whole other topic. But don't try to put ownership on something else that likely isn't true. And I am so grateful. I'm going to say this again. Those women that I worked with at Victoria's Secret, they were inspiring. They were amazing leaders. They were creative. Oh my gosh. I don't even think leadership like that really exists anymore. Not that I've seen. I certainly didn't see it later in my career. Certainly, no. Being honest. So to have a leadership team like that in the late 90s when the brand was like rocking, that's like amazing. So those are the memories that I'm going to hold. And I'm going to continue to take ownership for what I can control. And I hope you do too. That's all I've got for today. This might be a long podcast. I have no idea. We'll see, right? But feel free to connect. If you're interested in one-on-one coaching, my email is the best way to reach me to have a discussion. Set aside some time. I'm also going to put a link to my online course called Supercharge Your Transformation, which is just evergreen at your own pace. I will put that in the show notes. And feel free to connect on Facebook, LinkedIn, Instagram, or Twitter. So until next week, I hope you think about this. You may be just agreeing with me, nodding your head. Cool. That's awesome. But if there's some area in your life where you need to take a little bit more ownership so you can change, transform, and move forward, I hope you do it. Sending you lots of love. Thanks for listening.